Well, with Europa League football on the horizon, surely we're a more attractive prospect to many players, but not Hendrick. Apparently, he isn't enjoying his loan spell, so he's out of here. Do we try and renew the loan, or do we cut our losses on him and give the game time to our other prospects? Speaking of youth prospects, we started our business with David Rutterschmid for £2.9 million. He will stay at Cluj on loan for the season. Hector Marino was our next acquisition for £4.2 million. We looked at Crystal Palace, who were relegated, and pinched Mark Gahey for £38.5 million, which uses up most of our budget. Saudi Arabia came in for Meslier, including add-ons it's about £63 million, so we opted to sell and sign Guillem Restes, who we've had our eye on for a while. The relegated Crystal Palace reinvested some of that Mark Gahey money by buying Charlie Cresswell off us for a potential £12 million. We then sold Carmona for £25 million, potentially rising to £31 million, a nice little profit made there. And despite transfer business still ongoing, the season is already upon us. Can our youngsters kick on once more? Well, we raced into a 4-0 lead against West Ham by half-time, a hat-trick for Jamie Donnelly. West Ham grabbed a couple of goals back late on, but we won 4-2 and got our season off to a great start. The good start continued as we went ahead with a well-worked corner against Watford. Watford had other ideas and pegged us back just 3 minutes later. The scores were level for less than a minute when man of the moment Jamie Donnelly restored our lead. It stayed like this until the 75th minute when we scored 2 in 2 minutes. First Donnelly with his second, then Alex Scott opened his account for the season by rifling one home. Back-to-back games, back-to-back 4 goals, and after a great start, we're top of the league. Admittedly, it's only 2 games in, but we're still top. We then sold Cater for £11.75 million, contributing nearly £25,000 of his wages as well. Just chalk this one up to a bad investment. 25 mil down the drain. You can't nail every transfer, can you? Against Brentford, Jamie Donnelly scored after 76 seconds, and it was 2 inside 5 minutes as Echeverry scored a free kick. 8.5 minutes in and Brentford had one back and equalised on 12 minutes. A blockbuster of a start to this game. Brian and Bueno made it 3 just before half-time, although it went down as a Max Werber own goal. And despite the crazy first half, the scoring dried up, at least until the 88th minute, when Alex Scott found Emmanuel Omega, who made it 3-3 and rescued a point. But wait, there's more. Oh yes, the drama was not over. Buonani squared to Marlon Gomez, 4-3, and we snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. But the scoring was still not over, but the drama was, as in the 96th minute, Buonani made it 5. We continued our great form as we beat Brighton 4-1, Ousmane Diamondi the star of the show with a goal and 2 assists from centre-back. Go on lad. And with August coming to a close, Jamie Donnelly, who had been on fire, won Player of the Month. Deservedly so with 7 goals in 4 games. At this rate, he could be on for the Golden Boot. It was a double swoop for the Don Meister as he pipped Buonani to Young Player of the Month. Maybe it's time to give him a shiny new contract and pay rise. We began our Carabao Cup defence with a tricky tie against Liverpool, winning 4-2, scoring 4 again. And we lost 2-0 to Spurs, bringing our great start to the season to an end. However, in spite of this defeat, we're still top for now. We kicked off the Europa League in confident fashion with a 3-1 win against Sport Club Rapid, followed by a 2-1 win against Wolfsburg. We scored 4 yet again as we dismantled Everton in their own backyard, 2 more for Jamie Donnelly, Buonani also on the score sheet, and the scoring was complete by David Washington. Go on, Dave. And against Chelsea, we continued our fantastic form. Buonani put us ahead in the first half, then Anton Stach took a liking to Reece James' leg, so he decided to snap it off on the stroke of half-time. Could the 10 men of Leeds hold on and grind out a dramatic victory? Well, yeah, we got well and truly battered. And the wheels really started to fall off as we got taken apart 4-1 at home by Man City. We looked to get back on track in the Europa League, and we did just that. After heavy back-to-back defeats in the league, we managed to take apart Maccabi Haifa, putting down a marker that we're here to compete in the Europa League and not just make up the numbers. Hat-tricks for Jamie Donnelly and David Washington helped us to a double-figure victory, 10-0, a record under our tenure. Sadly, we couldn't get back to winning ways in the league as we lost 1-0 at Old Trafford, which means after 9 games, we're 8th, which is quite humbling after the dizzy heights of first for a couple of weeks of the season. Up next was Luton in the Carabao Cup, and of course we scored 4 yet again. This season's magic number it seems so far, as we win 4-0 in the 4th round. A 3-0 win against bottom of the table Blackburn got us back on track in the league, a game we definitely should be winning. And we did! A comfortable performance. Emmanuel Omega was unhappy at the lack of game time and asked to leave. Wolves, Bournemouth and Saudi Arabia had a bidding war and hiked up the price to £46 million. An excellent piece of business, giving us a healthy little war chest for January. Before we could go transfer hunting, we had plenty of business on the pitch to see to. Firstly, Real Betis in the Europa League, a game which we won 3-2. And it was back-to-back 3-2s as we beat Wolves 3-2. But it wasn't the whole story. We made it hard for ourselves as Buonanni decided to commit assault on the quarter of an hour mark. He didn't just get a red card, he actually got arrested. Luckily he'll be out on bail in 3 games though. We then went behind, equalised, then behind again as our old friend Lorenzo Luca popped up with a goal. We then scored 2 in the second half to turn it around and we won 3-2. Another 3 points on the board with a 3-1 win against Leicester, and we dropped our first Europa League points in a stalemate against Olympiacos. We won 4-1 against Bournemouth, 4 once again, getting things going inside a minute from David Washington. And with that victory we find ourselves 4th in the table. It's either a win or a loss for us this season. No draws in 13 games. And we've got a dilemma. I have 2 players I'm looking at who are both 18. They're interested and we can afford. Sadly, we've already signed 5 players under 21 from abroad this season, so we have to choose just one. We have Emilian Koch and Marvin Wattio. Both look great, but for me, Wattio just edges it and I'm leaning towards him. Probably a bit of a spoiler that he's already been mid-journeyed up. But there we go. We started December with a 3-2 defeat at St James's Park, and we confirmed the signing of Marvin Wattio for £18 million, which will go through on the 1st of January. And with the transfer rumours swirling, David Washington continues his good form, getting the opener against Norwich, a solid performance all round, and a couple of assists for the man who pulls the strings, David Pizarro, as we ran out 3-0 winners. Rooney Bargi and Alex Scott with the other goals. And those transfer rumours were Valentin Carboni for £27 million. And they were more than just rumours, as we secured the transfer, significantly strengthening in January as we continue our push for Champions League qualification. And this could be through our league form or Europa League form, as we're looking strong in that competition and definitely consider us one of the favourites at this point. We showcased this in grand fashion as we secured our passage through the group stage, beating Vålerenga 8-1 in their own backyard. A hat-trick for Rooney Bargi, being upstaged by Big Dave, who got 4. Go on, Dave lad, who needs Valentin Carboni? Yeah, we do. Squad depth and all that. And we got a youth intake preview, and of course it looked like a load of rubbish, so we move on to Arsenal away. And Arsenal went ahead with a goal from Martinelli, but we kept ourselves in the game, and on the stroke of half-time, Marlon Gomez scored a deflected free kick. We were defensively questionable in the second half and once again allowed Martinelli to give Arsenal the lead. However, once again we found ourselves back in the game, and once again it was a goal from Marlon Gomez. 2-2 looked how it was going to finish until the 95th minute, and David Washington crossed for Badruddin Buonanni, who slotted home. 3-2 and a magnificent 3 points. It wasn't overly convincing, but we progressed to the semis of the Carabao Cup with a 1-0 win against West Ham. We continued churning out results as we beat Fulham 3-1 before being held to our first draw of the season against Spurs, 1-1. And the drawing continued, this time at Anfield against top of the table Liverpool, a 2-2 draw. Halfway through the season and we're doing brilliantly. We're 4th in the mix for Champions League football. Our youngsters are really coming of age and going from strength to strength. And to round off an excellent year, we beat Aston Villa 2-1, and with fitness worries and injuries, I can't wait for those new signings to arrive. Archie Gray popped up and won the European Golden Boy. Go on, Archie. Hands off in January, everyone. And it was a happy new year for Leeds as we beat Watford 2-0 on New Year's Day, a brace for Semir Kılıçsoy, and good performances from our new signings, Carboni grabbing himself an assist. Our cup heroics nearly came unstuck against Rotherham of all teams, 2-0 down inside 10 minutes. We hit back with a quick 1-2 punch at the start of the second half, but a replay awaits us, annoyingly. We then beat West Ham 3-0 before our FA Cup replay where we dispatched Rotherham 4-0. A pain we needed a second game to do it, but we're through. But our great form faltered as we lost 2-1 against Brighton, but it's not all doom and gloom as we signed Oscar Gluck for free, arriving in the summer. What an amazing deal. We then beat Ferencváros 4-1 to continue our good form in Europe, and the FA Cup was back, and once again it's a draw leading to a replay 2-2 against Palace. We round off the Europa League phase in style with a 7-0 win against Bruges, a first goal for January signing Marvin Watio, a hat-trick for Semi Kiliksoy, and with that, we finished top of the league phase on goal difference. An excellent showing for our young squad. We were then held to a 1-1 draw by Chelsea. Yeah, you heard that right. They held us to a draw, because we are Leeds, and we are massive. And on deadline day, we sold surplus to requirements Anton Stach for £43 million to Brighton. We signed him for 10 million, so it was a great profit. Plus he found himself not registered for Europe and he was barely playing at all. It was time to cash in, and cash in we did. So with those funds I figured why not try and spend something, and we stumbled across 18-year-old Nathaniel Hondy, who looks promising, and based in the UK, so exempt from the 6 under-21s from abroad rule. Happy days. 15.75 million. I think it's a worthwhile gamble because if he doesn't quite cut it, we should recoup our money, but being driven in personality type, we're quite confident he'll do well. And that concludes our January, selling 2 players that were surplus to requirements for £90 million and spending £60 million on promising young prospects for the future. We're continuing to make positive steps forward. Now, back to the action on the pitch. And the FA Cup 4th round replay against Palace got off to a flyer with David Washington scoring early to make it 1-0. He then capitalised on a poor back pass to steal in and make it 2. 1 foot in the 5th round it seems. But by half time it was 2-1 as Luis Romo lashed home for Palace. Anthony Gordon then equalised less than a minute into the second half and things got even better for Palace as Beto made it 3-2. Fortunately, Buonanni managed to equalise before Carboni bagged himself a goal, making it 4-3. Could we hold on? No. We better get ready for extra time. Beto scored again. In extra time, it was Callum Hudson-Odoi, someone who we actually tried to sign at one point, who chose Palace instead, and he looked to secure their passage through, making it 5-4. However, literally straight from kickoff, Carboni broke through and rounded the keeper for his second and our 5th. 5-all! But it was Hudson-Odoi again who jinked through and challenged and made it 6-5. We're out of the FA Cup. A quick 1-0 against Everton before heading back to the Cup, and this time the Carabao. And it's Arsenal and a stalemate 0-0 in the first leg. We had a tough visit to the Etihad which we succumbed to a 3-1 defeat, and we were literally hit by a spate of injuries before the second leg against Arsenal. Firstly, Tino Livramento, who was out for about 2 months with a torn hamstring, then Archie Gray, who's out for about a month with a twisted ankle. And the downward spiral continued as we lost in extra time to Arsenal in the second leg of the Carabao Cup. We got back to winning ways against bottom of the table Blackburn. We cruised into a 3-0 lead with our shiny new toy Marvin Watio scoring a brace. We did make hard work for ourselves though, as we left the door ajar and Blackburn got 2 goals back late on. It ended 3-2 and we took the points, so that's the main thing. And with that performance, Marvin wins Young Player of the Month for February. Archie Gray and Yoel Hato make up the top 3. Leeds United with a clean sweep. As we move into March, the business end of the season, we welcomed Brentford to Ellen Road, and despite a slightly shaky defensive performance conceding 2 goals, we did win the game 4-2. Not for the first time in recent memory, we raced into a 3-0 lead. Goals from Donnelly, Kiliksoy and Scott. Brentford then got a couple back, but we secured the win with Kiliksoy getting his second. The Europa League was back and Fenerbahce was our opponent. We headed off to Turkey and our youngsters did us proud once again. Goals from David Washington, Claudio Chevry and Jamie Donnelly seal a 3-1 win. We were then notified we'd broken the record for a Europa League campaign goals tally, with potentially 6 games still remaining. If we make it to the final, how big could this record get? We then faced Wolves, and in this game we had a whole load of emotions and frustration. Not only did Emmanuel Omega score twice as the game looked to end 3-3, but we then conceded a 4th in the 96th minute, in literally the last kick of the match. A defeat we certainly could have done without as we sit 4th, but with the chasing pack with games in hand, our position looks quite perilous. But look at bloody Newcastle, streaking away. Zinedine Zidane at the wheel, and they're cooking. We beat Fenerbahce 5-2 in the return leg, progressing through 8-3 on aggregate, a comfortable and solid performance. Nathaniel Hondy with his first goal for the club. We continued our form in the league as we dispatched Leicester 3-0, then Alex Scott broke his jaw following a robust challenge in training. Who the did that then? Name and shame them, Football Manager, I'll sell the dickhead. Against Bournemouth we walked away with a dominant 5-1 win, a hat-trick for Semi Kiliksoy amongst the goal scorers. It was an all-English affair in the Europa League quarter-final as we faced Norwich, and the first leg was a boring 0-0 draw, and runaway leaders Newcastle couldn't beat us as we equalised late on, which could turn out to be a valuable point in our pursuit of European qualification. In a cagey game, extra time loomed in the Europa League until the 92nd minute when Killuxoy scored a last-gasp winner to send us through to the semi-finals. Norwich, however, got a modicum of revenge in the following game, beating us 2-1 in the league. And it was a goal fest against Arsenal as we lost 6-3, and with back-to-back defeats we dropped down to 8th. This season has felt much better on the whole, but we might finish lower than last season. And actually, we have 2 more points than last season with 4 games to go. So it seems everyone has upped their game. We're now clinging on, hoping for Europe in some fashion. It's going to be a tense end to the season. Atletico Madrid in the Europa League semis, and things started badly as Antoine Griezmann lashed home from 30 yards. We got a foothold in the game, and after a lovely passing move, Jamie Donnelly found himself with a great chance, and he didn't need asking twice as he tucked it home. 1-1. And that's how it stayed until there was a bit of argy-bargy in the box and we ended up with a penalty in the 91st minute, which was duly dispatched by David Washington. We weren't done there though. A speculative cross wasn't dealt with and fell to Buonardi, who tucked it into an open goal, a miscommunication between goalkeeper and defence, and we find ourselves 3-1 up heading into the second leg. We then got a valuable 3 points against Fulham in a 2-1 win, and we have games in hand on the teams above us. We are in touching distance. It's very, very tight from 4th to 9th, which is a scary proposition. We could get Champions League football, but equally, we could end up with nothing. And our get out of jail free card for Europe, the Europa League, is no more. Our European dreams have been dashed after a 2-0 defeat, and we ultimately crashed out of the competition on penalties. Carabao Cup and Europa League semi-final defeats. This feels a bit like a nearly season. And we had the Sunday game for match week 36, so we have games in hand on everyone, but we're down in 8th and we face Liverpool, who are 7th, so it's no easy task. A win takes us back into the European places, a defeat, and that might be it. Things, however, started brilliantly as a well-worked move from a short corner was finished by Marvin Wachio inside 10 minutes. Valentin Carboni made it 2 before half-time, and then things got even better as Alexis McAllister got sent off. With 15 minutes to go, Mo Salah pulled one back for Liverpool, 2-1, and game on. But less than 2 minutes later, Rooney Bargy floated in a cross, and Carboni nodded home for his second and our third. As Liverpool pushed forward looking for a way back into the game, gaps opened up and Nathaniel Hondy had time and space just outside the box and lashed one home, beating the keeper at his near post. That wasn't it though, as there was time for another goal, and it was Carboni getting his first hat-trick for the club at a crucial time. What a key signing in January he was. And with that, we're in the European places. We could finish as high as 3rd, but we could also miss out on Europe altogether. It's still all to play for, except the title. Newcastle have secured that already. And this is no fairy tale. Despite our best efforts, we fell to defeat against United 1-0 in a tense affair. So with that, we head into the final day of the season against Villa. In theory, being able to finish anywhere from 3rd to 9th. Such is the madness of this Premier League season. With a lot at stake, we were slow to start, going behind against Villa. However, we showed resolve and character coming back to equalise and go one step further by taking the lead 2-1. And that's how it finished. We did what we needed to. So where did we finish? Well, there you have it. 5th, and that's a Europa League qualification position. I certainly feel that with this season's semi-final defeat, we have some unfinished business in that competition, so I'll be keen to strengthen and go one better next season. Although based on other factors like coefficient places or cup finals, we may get promoted to a Champions League spot. And we shared the goals around with over 20 for David Washington, Jamie Donnelly and Semi Killickshoy, then plenty being chipped in from elsewhere. A well-rounded squad that is going from strength to strength. Jamie Donnelly then won Players Young Player of the Year, and the board set the budgets, giving us £3.2 million in wages, which is about £600,000 to play with, as well as £67 million to spend. Plus, with a couple of players we want to sell, we could be on for a few big signings this summer to really take us to the next level and win the Europa League and ultimately qualify for the Champions League.